Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadulak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
What's up, everybody? Dan Claps and Dadulak tuning in. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Doing a home team episode today.
Home team episode. We're due for one.
Yeah,
It's been a bit, yeah. Well, I'm at a franchise conference. What a surprise.
Yeah. I know you're always out and about, kissing babies, shaking hands, all that good stuff.
Yep, shaking hands and kissing babies, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like someone asked me how I go to all these conferences, but they don't realize I stay in my hotel room all day. I go out for the networking at night, but I'm here, show my face in the morning for coffee, and then I just do my calls all day long and meetings. But I'm tired, man. This trip is the last trip for 2 weeks, I think. So I'm excited to get some time home. Outside of Easter, I'm traveling with some family.
Nice. That's good. Yeah. Rest, recharge, some R&R.
Are you going? Where do you go for Easter now that you're in Arizona?
Just hanging out. Yeah, just staying here in Arizona. Just having some family visit. I'm actually having a buddy come into town. Just, do all the normal Easter stuff, go to church, all that good stuff. So, yeah, nothing crazy. But
Nice.
just now doing it in the Phoenix area, Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and loving it.
Yeah, I'm sure. The weather's great.
For now.
Does your mom ever think about moving there? Like your brother's there too, right? We're living with you?
Yeah, brother's here. Mom will come probably within the next year or two, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So just bringing the whole family out to Scottsdale, it's just better. And more franchise friendly, obviously.
Yeah, I'm persuading my dad to move on down to Florida so we can have eventually I'll get the whole family, everyone in my extended family to make the move.
Yeah. Look, it's a good place to be, man. It looks fun.
Nice, yeah. Well, we were just having a great conversation before we hit the record button. I wish we were recording before.
I know. Yeah, we were talking about systems and processes and things that you're implementing. And I know that a lot of this stemmed from listening to Tommy Mello, who's amazing, home services genius, I would say, in many ways. And just learning about some of the systems and processes he implements. I know we listened to that podcast where he did that Q&A. And what I love about you, man, is you hear something, you're like, nugget, something I can implement, and you do it immediately. And it's been, a couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, dude, my superpower for sure is learning. Like, I love Tommy Mello. I had the rare opportunity to meet him, all because just kind of crazy story, and you were part of this. I had been asked at a panel I was speaking at if we could add Ellen Rohr from Zoom Drain to the panel. And the guy said, listen, it's going to take away a little bit of your thunder because she's super, super accomplished. But, would you mind having her on? And I said, you know what? That would be awesome. Like, I would love to do a panel with her. Just to, I thought it was the right thing to do. And what I didn't realize was that meant we would talk 3, 4, 5 times before the panel, became friends. She did the panel with me. I learned a ton. And then because we built a relationship, one thing led to another where she said, hey, I know Tommy Mello. She connected me. So giver's gain, right? I did something to help her. She did something to help me. Next thing you know, I'm out at Tommy Mello's offices. I spend the entire day with him. We're on a texting basis now. And he's my mentor. Like I told him, you're my mentor. You're making you my, you don't get to pick who you mentor, right? Mentee kind of pushes their way into the mentor, and I've done that in the past. And so I was like, hey man, you're gonna be my mentor, unbeknownst to you. But anyway, so start talking to him, and I think where I was going was he gave me so much that I thought, if you're able to give me this much for free, what do you give to people if they give you money? Like, what do you give your customers or your employees? It's amazing. And so I'm taking that same approach, which is I'm giving it all away. I'm trying to give out the advice. If you're listening to this podcast, you think about owning a home service business or any business, I think me and Christian, we're going to start giving away even more just tangible, granular things.
100%. And it's funny because sometimes I'll hear something or I'll learn something or I'll come across something that I think anyway, is common knowledge, or we feel like it's common knowledge, but we come from the world of franchising where there's so many systems and processes in place and the standard is so high because it is so systematic. So we think that that's just obvious to the average franchise buyer and some of the more nuanced stuff that they should be doing, but it's not common knowledge. There's a lot of stuff that once you really dig deep, I mean, a lot of people, they'll think, candidates that I work with that are thinking about buying a franchise, they come in thinking, I mean, how hard could it be to start a power washing business or a mosquito business or a restoration franchise? I mean, you get some equipment, you get some vehicles, you run some ads, you get some leads, and then you go out there and do the work, right? But so many of the back end system and processes that are 100% necessary to succeed, it's like the little stuff, right? You win with the little things at the end of the day. And that's what the franchise model allows people to have access to, and the coaching, and to really think, I don't know what I don't know. And even for me, like I listened to that episode with Tommy Mello the other day where he was doing a lot of Q&A from other home services owners that are non-franchised. And a lot of the things that we take for granted, they don't know these things. And people that are already in that business about systems and processes, how to structure compensation, what they should be shooting for in terms of gross margin, how they should be recruiting people, treating people, all these different things, just mindset stuff. There's a certain baseline in franchising, but as we know, not every franchise is created equal. And, there's a lot of good franchises out there. There's bad ones. But what I love about what you guys are doing is you guys are really implementing things, taking things to the next level. And I think what would be helpful for the audience is to learn a little bit more about some of the more granular stuff, because it's easy to think big picture, gosh, it must be easy. But once you start learning what some of these guys in franchising, outside of franchising are doing to really set up themselves apart in the marketplace, you realize that the strategy behind it and the systems and processes that they're implementing, the money that they're investing into making sure that the phones get answered, or the money they're pouring into marketing up front to dominate a market, maybe at the expense of profits initially. Like they'll decimate their profit margin, but just to flood the market and become the 800-pound gorilla. I mean, all these different things are I find fascinating, but it's interesting to hear you in real time implementing a lot of this stuff. So I think for the audience to hear some of the granular implementation that you guys are offering is helpful, whether or not they're going to be thinking about Voda or even another home services business. I think just even pulling out a little bit from that, it's helpful for them to understand, like, hey, these are the things that I should want in a franchisor. Here's what I should want them to be thinking about. I want them to be thinking about all the really nuanced stuff for how we can win and truly set ourselves apart in the marketplace. But yeah, I would love to just hear your thoughts on some of the things you guys are implementing to be able to offer those things to your franchise owners.
To offer them to the franchise owners?
Yeah. Like the systems and processes you have that it's helping you to take things to the next level as a franchisor.
Next level?
Are you doing the Chris Voss on me?
I'm not very good at it because I've been practicing it, and I don't think it seems like people are getting freaked out. So just for the audience that's listening, Christian and I are big Jeremy Minor fans, and Chris Voss. Chris Voss wrote the book Never Split the Difference, and then he has a fantastic master class that I watched on a plane recently, and then that triggered me to start listening to Jeremy Minor. And they have this thing called mirroring, which it's really interesting. Like basically you repeat back whatever someone's saying, either the last word, like,
2 or 3 words. Yeah.
2 or 3 words, and it helps them connect the dots. When you're doing it, when it makes sense to do, it really does work well. In this case, you were coming to me trying to get me to talk about something, so it doesn't really work. But if you mirror someone when you're just asking them questions, it's pretty fascinating. I've been doing it at this conference, and I notice people just talk on and on and on and on. And then you have this label thing. And so I'm really excited to use that in a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what you can do is when you sense something, like if you're negotiating with someone and I say, Christian, you sound angry. I feel like maybe what I said here struck a nerve. Let's talk through what in this contract is causing you to be so frustrated and so angry. What happens is when you label someone, they come down 3 notches. And so it's really fascinating. And it also works on the positive side. So I could say, Christian, I just want to thank you. I went through this agreement. I feel like you're being really generous with the terms you're giving me here. And, just your generosity is just super appreciated because I want him to be a little bit more generous. He's going to actually try to serve that label that I've said about him because people want to be the good thing that you said. And so you can't be a lie. Like there has to be some generosity already in the agreement, but like you call out a genuine thing and you get more of it by giving it a label.
Yeah, Dan, it seems like you're really committed to growing and investing in yourself.
Yeah, and see, like I'm smiling right when you say that. It's like, yeah, dude, I am. Thank you. We're starving for compliments, but yeah, I'll take you through kind of what we're doing at Voda and our franchise playbook. And it's funny, I was just having a conversation with someone over at Five Star Franchising, and I was telling them about this, and I was saying how at first I was going to keep this all to myself. And I wasn't going to share it. And I've decided that when it comes to AI, I really want to be the pioneer when it comes to home service companies. Now, home service companies are doing it already, but I don't see it in franchise home service companies. And so what I've decided to do is to share all the trial and tribulations that I've been going through over the past year with AI technology and all the money I've spent on it to get to this point where I'm at that actually now works. And people can skip all that I went through and they can go right to this playbook. So if you don't mind, would it be fair if I share that?
I think it would be fair. But even before that, I think what would be helpful is, can you share with us why AI is even important in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, to me, AI is the future. It's alarmingly growing. I was just at in Las Vegas at the Sphere venue, and they had all these robots, AI, and they're getting smarter by the day. I truly believe if you don't adapt to technology, you'll fall behind. I don't think we're at a point where AI is going to take our jobs, all of our jobs. I do think it's unfortunately going to take some jobs, and
Yeah.
I think the guy or gal that can manage AI is going to be very, or learn how to use AI as a tool, just like we've used computers. And so, what we're doing with AI right now is all centered around sales enablement and operations enablement. And so, on the sales front, that's what I'll talk to. Zach can talk on a different episode more about what we're doing AI operationally. But we both made a commitment, Zach Nolte, our COO, and myself, to commit AI to our business now, implement it now. And so I'm handling the sales side. So what we're doing on the sales side, Christian, is we're recording and coaching every element of our business. And so when it comes to Fran Dev, there are KPIs and recordings and playbooks being created. When it comes to our call center, when it comes to our in the field, even. And so what we're doing is we're under this mindset that sales is a sport. And the only way you get better at a sport is if you practice. I just started skiing this season. Who's better? The person who's naturally good at skiing or the guy that skis 100 hours back to back or 10,000 hours? I don't care what natural skills you have. If you skate a lot, you're going to get better. And when it comes to sales, there's this saying practice makes perfect, but I believe perfect practice makes perfect. And so not only are our sales reps and within our organization getting practice by doing reps, but they're also being recorded and coached. And AI is using different parameters to help them coach. And so what I said early was, for example, I talk too fast. I talk at
Yeah, me too.
180. Yeah, I know. And maybe too much. And so I talk at 180. This is what I'll give you an example of my scoreboard in my sport, my stats. I talk 180 words a minute. Believe it or not, I actually talk only 40% of my calls with people in
Great.
meetings. So I actually talk less when it's not time to talk. Um, my patience score is 0.6 seconds. So basically, I wait about a half a second before I speak when someone's speaking. The industry sales recommendation is 1 second, so I need to fix that. 120 words per minute is what a great salesperson or CEO speaks at. And so what I do calls at the end of the day, I'll get a score. They'll say, "Hey, great job. You're at 170, you know, words per minute versus the 180, and our goal is 120." And so I'm seeing these things daily, as is my team, and I'm learning and I'm getting better. But the only way to get better is by having the data. And so we're using AI to pull the data.
I love that, man. Because at the end of the day, like I keep saying, the things that separate one business from another is just that little bit more that the winner does that that the average person doesn't do. And it really comes down to, I mean, you think like how hard could it be? But it's a lot of that intangible stuff. I mean, and the nice thing about AI is it makes it a little bit more tangible because you actually have data to work with rather than a gut feeling. Like I feel like I'm talking too much or I feel like I'm talking too fast, but what is the actual data behind it? And so the AI gives you the ability to get that data. And what it helps even more with is training. If you have the best people that are doing the best job, you're going to win. You're going to provide a better experience for the customer. You're going to know where the areas of improvement are. You don't know that if you don't have the data, and you don't have the data if you don't have the tools. And so that's what I love about what you guys are implementing with AI. And because how are you going to train people? How are you going to coach people? How are you going to coach yourself and get better if you don't have those resources in play? So I think that's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, it's it's alarming how fast the tools are growing. I'll give you an example. So I was telling you this before we hit record. I have it set up where if our competitors are brought up, it's very important that we professionally never talk negatively about competitors. And so the AI knows our competitors. Okay. And it has what's called tracked terms. And after about 500 calls, it can not only track terms like words, but it actually starts to understand more than just the ones we put in there. But what it'll do is it'll say a competitor was brought up on this call in an email, right? Competitor was brought up, and here's what was said. And if I don't care if what positive was said, that's what I want. I don't need to know about that. But when negative is brought up, it tells us, right? And so we can immediately get that information and fix it. And a lot of people are going to listen and say, "Well, it's like Big Brother," and they're listening. Sales is a sport. Does the best football player go back and watch the film the next night, next day, right? Do they watch sales as a sport? If you want to get better, the only way we can get better is by having visibility. You can't manage what isn't measured. And so we're able to help people get better. It's not about micromanaging. It's not about, being Big Brother. It's about, hey, we're a team and we're going to help each other, including myself, get better if you buy into the program, which is these coaching tools and these AI tools. And by the way, with the forecasting that these sales enablement tools using AI have, you can start to learn and say, why is this sales rep closing more than that sales rep? Because chances are it's not just, oh, one's friendly, one's not. There is so much to it. It's a science. So when now we look back at the data and we say, wow, our average ticket in Voda is, in our item 19 shows 560, but this franchisee is, doing substantially different numbers. Why? We can look back and we can learn and we can, we have visibility. And so the whole point is that utilizing these tools, the first thing you need to do is you need to get recordings, which there's technology to do that. And then that plugs into AI, gives you back manageable insights that you can then, actionable insights that you then could use.
For sure. I think the thing that a lot of people would get nervous about, salespeople and just people on someone's team, is, like you said, it kind of feels like Big Brother a little bit. It almost feels a little micromanagey, like, oh, you're just trying to read all my calls and just nitpick me and, be a negative Nancy and just show me everything I'm doing wrong. And I can see why people would feel that way. Obviously, that's not the intent of it, but how do you communicate to them? And I know you just started implementing some of this stuff, but how do you plan to communicate the true purpose behind this, and what is that conversation going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of legal things you need to do when it comes to recording, which we obviously do. But more importantly, this is it's an option. You don't have to do it. But sales is a sport. And if you want to get better, you can either get better through coaching or you can just flounder around. I know for me, I've been able to, successfully use clues. And so I'm not that smart. I'm not doing anything crazy. I find smart people and I listen to them and then we implement. And so, like, That's all, right? And so, like, if you want to be a business owner and a franchise owner, the beauty of franchise ownership is there's playbooks to implement on. I just happen to be now implementing something that 5 years from now everyone will do. We just happen to be ahead of the curve. We're not even that ahead of the curve, but everyone will do this. And the guy that started recording calls back whenever he did, the company that did, everyone probably thought was crazy. But now every single call is recorded for quality assurance purposes. And I would argue it has made all services better. It has raised the bar, right? The recording of calls. And so all we're doing is we're taking that to the next level, and we're using tools to analyze those calls, which are already being recorded anyway. That's what everyone's doing. All we're doing is taking the data and we're using it, and we're putting it into actionable insights, and then we're using that to make people better. And I don't know, I honestly believe if you're not interested in getting better, then business ownership and sales are not for you. Like, you have to have a growth mentality. Either you're growing or you're dying, as they say.
Totally agree. Yeah, whatever gets tracked and measured is ultimately going to get improved upon. And you wonder why does this guy like a Tommy Mello have a $200 million plus garage door business and most other people failed to get there? It's just because they do that little bit extra, because they're getting better, and they get better because they know how to get better. They know what areas they can improve on. They know what areas their team needs to improve on. And then they get good at and learn how to focus on and train on those areas too. So what are you guys doing, or what do you plan to do to coach around that? Like granular, specific, like what are we talking about? What does that conversation look like with your team internally at Vodo, like on your Fran Dev team, franchise development for people that don't know that term, Fran Dev, but also with your franchise owners? How are you going to coach them to coach their technicians and their salespeople on how to use that data, how to coach on that data in a way that's empowering, where it doesn't feel like they're getting nitpicked, but it's like, no, this is an opportunity to improve and get better, and then tie that to what that means to them. Because nobody cares about, hey, this means the company's going to make a lot more money. Well, no one cares. Your technician does not care about that. Your salesperson doesn't care about that. I mean, they should care about the overall success of the company, but really what they're thinking about is, what helps me at the end of the day? How does this help me to hit my personal, professional, financial goals? And so tying it back to their compensation, hey, if you have an X amount better conversion rate on the front end, back end, whatever part of the process, this could mean X amount of dollars to you in bonuses, in profit sharing, in commissions, or whatever the case is. But how do you plan to have that conversation? Like, what would that look like? And what would you teach your franchise owners on how to have that conversation?
Well, in our scenario, techs are performance compensated on performance pay. They make money by providing better and more services to our homeowners. So when they're in the home, they do what we call value-based selling. They're the doctor in the home. They get to know the challenges that the homeowner may have that we have not yet solved. We might be there to clean their floors or to solve, extract water, but there might be other things that can be improved related to the suite of services we provide. And so they'll go in and they'll ask questions and they'll learn, and then they'll provide solutions and take the average ticket up. And so that technician makes a percentage of that. And so the better they get at asking the right questions in the right order with the right tonality in the right way and presenting the right way, and they're having coaching helping them get better, they're going to get better. One of the things I've learned in running sales organizations my entire career is the number one thing salespeople ask for is more training. They want more training. Salespeople are like athletes. They want to work out. They want to get better. And so all you're doing is you're providing the resources and tools to help people get better. And again, they don't have to do it, but maybe you don't need it always. But like, hey, like, we noticed that you're kind of struggling here. Let's turn on this recording system and let's take a look. Let's figure it out. Or on the other end, you're doing amazing. Can we learn what you're doing? And the best way to learn is to teach, right? So a lot of times I'll say to the top guy, dude, you're killing it. Can you teach other people this? Because by the way, what you're going to get out of that is you're going to learn it better, because you have to retain it more when you teach others, right? And so there's just so many ways. I mean, I'm fortunate that we have a culture of people that want to get better. Haven't had a ton of pushback on this. I'm sure we will. Anything you do that's kind of new is going to get pushed back, and I expect that, and I expect some backlash, if you will. But it doesn't. I don't mind that, because I know that we're innovating, and I know that this is going to help everyone do a better job. Just give you an example. Like, you don't know your technician's not cursing in the house. Maybe they don't know. I had a teammate curse sometimes, and they didn't realize they were cursing. It was just kind of naturally happening. And I said, hey, when you get nervous, I noticed, or excited, I noticed that you curse more. And they didn't want to curse. They didn't even notice. Like, I've done that too. And so, like, these tools help us get better. That's all they are. They help us get better. And, people that resisted the computer or the iPhone or the internet, they also, fell behind. And so if you can embrace AI now, it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. And I think that there are areas that it can help our businesses.
It's true, and I heard a quote from Mark Cuban. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he actually was a little bit more emphatic than we're being right now. Where he was saying, "Look, if you don't implement AI in your business, if you don't learn AI, you're gone. You're going to go by the way of the dodo. Bye bye, because you're not going to be able to compete. It's true. You're going to be
Yeah.
gone." And he said, and you can't, as the owner, you can't just say, "Oh," or the founder of the company, or whatever the case, the owner, the franchisee, whatever. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to leave this up to my tech team or my operations team, and they're going to learn it and they're going to make it happen." You need to understand it. You need to learn this stuff. And I'll admit that I'm not someone that really understands a lot of the ins and outs of necessarily how it works, but I am learning a lot more and more about, especially through conversations like this, in terms of the utility of these different tools. Like, what tools are out there, like know what tools are out there, know how to use these tools. And then I think the other thing is learn how to coach on these tools. For example, if I'm noticing that a sales rep is having, their average ticket is much, much lower, we dig into their numbers and there's something that they're saying or not saying, or there's a certain word that we know that converts a little bit better or leaves a better impression with the customer, and they're not using that word. Or maybe they're using a word that the data shows is causing maybe some kind of fear or an uneasiness or uncertainty in the consumer. I mean, that's important to know. So it's good to know how to coach on that, but also to do it in the right way. Because you can coach in a way that the way you coach matters, right? You could share information one way and it totally pisses your sales rep off, rubs them the wrong way. It doesn't come from a place of you caring and trying to help them to get better so that they can make more money and hit their goals. Or you could do it in a way where they're like, "Oh, he's doing this because he cares and he's communicating in a way that he's being direct, open, honest, direct, but also in a way that I know he cares and he wants me to get better so I can make more money." This isn't just about the owner and their wallet and making the business better for themselves, but it's so that everyone can get better and everyone can hit their goals within the organization.
I agree. Yeah, like, I mean, there's so many words that, if I said to you, Christian, like, relax, like, I know when I hear relax, it hits me right in the chest for whatever reason. And that's common for a lot of people, right? The word relax has a negative connotation for whatever reason. And other words like calm down also makes people feel pretty uneasy, right? And so on the opposite end, there's words that really make people feel good. And why not use those words if the data suggests to do so, right? That's my opinion on it. Um,
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, you just have to be aware of a lot of these things. And again, awareness is the first step to solving any problem in life and business. And if you're not aware, then yeah, you're done. And the way that you get that awareness is through these tools. And I get that it's awkward. I mean, I'll rewatch some of my recordings when I'm talking to candidates or whatever the case, look over the notes and just see areas that I can improve. And it's uncomfortable to watch yourself. I mean, I hate hearing the sound of my own voice. I don't ever listen to these podcasts for a lot of that reason. Although sometimes I do, just to hear how I come across and those kinds of things. But I should do it more, both for the podcast, and I do it a lot for my, when I'm working with candidates and helping them to identify the right franchise for them, just to see how I come across, because you don't really realize when you're in the conversation what your communication feels like, looks like, sounds like, until you watch a recording. And like you said earlier, I mean, perfect practice makes perfect. Not all practice is equal. If you're There's different types of practice, and if you're really drilling things and you're doing it and going about it in the correct way and you're being consistent with the practice, that's going to show up on the back end every time. And those are those little differences, little changes, little nuances that, if consistently applied over a long enough period of time, will make a huge difference. And that, again, is why you have VODA, which you guys have awarded over 70 plus territories in less than a year, right? Versus a lot of those franchise companies that maybe they have a good business model, a good offering, but for whatever reason, they're not able to crack it because their Fran Dev team, they don't implement this stuff, they don't track it, they don't train on it.
Yeah, and listen, things cost money. I mean, for us, like we reinvest in the business. We want to reinvest in the franchisees, and they're our customer, and we're making the business better and the product better, and that takes money and that takes energy and it takes some mistakes too, right? Not everything's gonna work, but you fail fast, you implement, you pivot, you learn, you improve. That's the trick, and that's what they pay us to do, right? The franchise fee royalties is to help them execute on a plan. It's my job to figure out the next plan. It's my job to test and try things out and get things going, and that's how we get better. And it's them that get to implement. And they also test things. I mean, our franchisee base brings great things all the time. Obviously, we can't do a bunch of things. Compromise makes a camel, as they say. We have to stick to the proven process. But the Big Mac was made by a franchisee. Like, we understand that. Like, we understand that they're in the field and really smart people are coming in and bringing in great ideas, and we listen to them all and implement when we can. And but yeah, that's the beauty of franchising. Franchisees push and franchisors push, and that makes the business grow at the rate it's growing. That's why we're growing. But
100%. Yeah, innovation's key. That's what they pay you for. So good. Well, awesome, man. Well, I think hopefully that was helpful for everyone. I mean, I know that I learned a lot, and it's good. I mean, I would go out there just as far as action items for everybody. I would go out there and look up some of these different AI tools that can be implemented. I mean, it's a simple Google search, right? Google AI tools to implement sales processes. Google AI tools to use for your specific industry.
Yeah,
so this isn't just home services, right? This applies to beauty. This applies to fitness. This applies to food. There's all sorts of industries that are really moving. The top dogs are 100% moving forward with implementing AI in their businesses. And so I would go out there and make sure that you're on top of that. Go look into that stuff, figure out how to implement those tools into what you're currently doing. And like you said, prepare for a little bit of backlash. Nobody likes change, but if you're not innovating, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying, like you said. So totally right. So hopefully everyone got a lot of good information out of this episode. And anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, man, it's a great episode.
All righty. Well, take care, guys. Thanks for hopping on to another episode of the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. Like, share, subscribe, leave us a review, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next episode.
You're f***ing fired. If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.